Hello everyone, today we will study chapter number 1, Reproduction in Organisms. Before we proceed with the main topics, let's understand the meaning of reproduction and organisms. Re means again and production means synthesis. So means that the synthesis or the production of an organism, again it is known as reproduction. An organism means all those individuals, all the living entities that have organ system in them. This organ system is made up of the organs. Organs are formed up of tissues, and tissues, of course, they are made up of the cells. So cells unite together to form the tissue, tissue unite together to form the organ, organ unite together to form an organ system, and this makes an organism. So if somebody asks you what are the examples of organisms, you can give the example of plants and animals because all those are living, right? So any living entity on earth is falling into a category of organism which are living. Now why there is a need to reproduce? There is a need of reproduction because each individual is having a definite lifespan. Lifespan means the period for which an individual lives. So if you talk about the phases in human being life, then our life starts with infancy. After that we enter into childhood. So infancy generally ends up at 2 years of age, and later we enter into childhood. Childhood stays till the period we start our puberty or teenage, and this puberty gets over at 18 years, and then we enter into adulthood or adult phase, and then comes the aging phase. That means the period from 18 to 60 years is your adulthood, and beyond 60 years starts your aging. After that, the body system weakens, and of course the individual has to die. So if all the human beings on the earth, they are going to die and there will be no reproduction, of course the human race will become extinct. So just to maintain the integrity, reproduction is a must to happen. In this chapter, we will be studying different types of reproduction. Of course, the first is going to be asexual reproduction, wherein it takes place in the lower animals. Then we will be talking about vegetative propagation, and this vegetative propagation, we will specifically take the examples of plants only. Then happens the sexual reproduction. So we will study one by one. First, we are starting with asexual reproduction. Now, whenever it is used as a prefix in biology with any of the term, it means absent. Means sexuality will be absent. Means there will be no male, there will be no female. We will be talking about just one individual, and that just one individual will give birth to the new individuals, or one individual will give birth to another offsprings. So we have different types of asexual reproduction in our syllabus. We will be heading towards each one by one. First, we are going to study about fission. Fission means breakdown. So whenever breakdown or splitting happens, that means we will use the term fission. Now fission may happen on the horizontal axis or the latitudinal axis, or it may happen vertically in a nucleus, or it may happen in the longitudinal direction. So here, if it is happening in the horizontal axis, then we need to remember the example that it happens in amoeba. And if we are studying vertical fission, then this happens in leishmania. Suppose this is your one parent and it undergoes fission, then how many individuals will be formed? 2 individuals. So in amoeba also 2 individuals will form. However, it is dividing horizontally. In leishmania, which is an example of a protozoan, 2 individuals will be formed. But here the division along the nucleus will be longitudinal. Now let me explain you one case of amoeba. Suppose this is the amoeba and this is the nucleus. Of course, we have taken how many amoeba? Just one. And this will undergo fission. I said that it will divide along the horizontal axis. So, if this amoeba has to divide by fission, first its nucleus will elongate, and then what will happen? It will divide into two parts, right? You can see that the division is happening along this axis. So once the fission will get over, how many individuals we are getting? We are getting 2 individuals. So that is what we have formed 2. From how one? 1. So we have just taken one individual. That means we satisfied the definition of asexual reproduction, because in asexual reproduction we just talk about one individual, right? So in amoeba you can give the example of fission. The next thing which we are going to discuss is budding. Budding is a phenomena where a small outgrowth or a bud will be formed. You must know how each process is happening, because sometimes 5-marker question also comes. Sometimes short questions also come wherein you need to cite just an example. So you can give the example of hydra in budding. Hydra again is a scientific name, so do underline it when you are giving the example. The another example is of the edible fungus called yeast, which is consumable, which is eaten by us. So if you draw the diagram, please be specific how you need to go. Generally, hydra, it is attached to the base because it is a sedentary animal, so it cannot move. Now once it has to undergo budding, a small outgrowth will be formed. You can see here this outgrowth has been formed here, this green colored. Now what will happen? Over a period of time, this outgrowth will be separated, right? This outgrowth will be separated, and this will lead individual life. So that means from one parent we have formed 2 individuals, and means we have satisfied the definition of asexual reproduction again. Now peculiarity about yeast is, suppose this is the diagram of yeast, you must know that yeast is an example of unicellular fungus. Unicellular means just single cell. Now yeast, when it grows through budding, a small outgrowth is formed. You can see here at the top, this is a bud. And here also this was a bud, right? So this bud has been separated. So this was the separated bud. Here in yeast, the bud, in case of unfavorable conditions, it may not get separated from the parent body. And over a period of time, some additional buds can also form. You can see that buds are piling up. They are arranged one over the other. So here we can see that yeast, it is appearing multicellular. However, it is not. It is only in the case of unfavorable conditions when yeast appears to be multicellular. When the conditions will become favorable, by favorable we mean that all the conditions which are required by the yeast to grow upon, if all those conditions will be there, then yeast will definitely look unicellular. Next type of asexual reproduction which we are going to study is zoospores. So zoospores are formed in an algae which is known as Chlamydomonas. Remember, whenever you are citing any example, you need to be very clear in the spelling. There should be no spelling mistake. In biology, when you make mistake into the scientific spellings, then marks are deducted. Now, Chlamydomonas generally exhibits this type of structure. It looks like this structurally. It is haploid. Now, over a period of time, when it has to enter asexual reproduction, then its nucleus divides numerous times, and these type of small zoospores are formed inside the main Chlamydomonas body. Now once these zoospores are formed, they exert a pressure and this will lead to the breakage of the parent body, and these zoospores, they will be released. So we have taken just one individual, and from one individual we have formed so many. Again, that means we have satisfied the definition of asexual reproduction. Next is Conidia Formation, and this Conidia Formation happens in a very familiar fungus. This is known as penicillium. Yes, you recollected it correctly. Penicillium was the name of the fungus from which the first antibiotic penicillin was extracted. Now in penicillin, Conidia, these are the type of asexual spores which are formed. So conidiophore is a structure. It is actually a branch that will bear the conidia on it. So these circular structures which I am drawing right now, they are nothing else, they are conidia. So these conidia, they are formed by the asexual reproductions, and once these conidia are separated from the conidiospore, each conidia will live an individual life and it will grow to form hyphae. Then hyphae will aggregate together to form the mycelium. So this is also important. In boards, the question may come like Conidia asexual reproduction or reproduction through conidia is present in which individual? Chlamydomonas reproduces through which type of spores, or zoospores are present in which type of organism? So you need to remember both ways. Next type of asexual reproduction is the formation of Gemules. Gemules are again the asexual spores, and these are quite prominent in the phylum Porifera. Yes, you recollected it right. Again, this was a phylum into which sponges were there. This is also very, very important that you should learn with each term the examples also. So if I cut the cross section or the transverse section of any poriferan or the member of the phylum Porifera, then certain these structures are formed in the central cavity or the spongocele. Now once they will be formed in high number, they will exert a pressure, and over a period of time they will be released from the osculum. Here I have drawn a structure of poriferan member for you. You can see that the central cavity is known as spongocele, and this opening at the top is known as osculum. So once if anything is formed in the spongocele, it will exert pressure and ultimately it has to come out of the osculum, and then they will live individual life. So again here we have formed the individuals from one parent only. So this also falls into the category of asexual reproduction. So this topic you need to prepare whole, because it may come in 5 marks or it may come in short notes as well. In next video we will be starting about vegetative propagation in plants. Thank you.